Next, let's look at Sudan, the largest country in Africa, and like Nigeria, very much divided between North and South, a division that reflects both the geographic and vegetational distribution of the rainfall regime we described earlier, as well as the historic influences of Islam from the north and Christianity from the south. Here is Sudan, and it has been in the press recently, especially because of the plight of the people of Darfur. The government in the capital of Sudan, or Khartoum, led by Omar al-Bashir, have undertaken a war against the inhabitants of western Darfur, in which militias or Janjaweed, supported by the government, have displaced these people, driving them into refugee camps in western Darfur and neighboring Chad. This has been an event of enormous suffering for the people of Darfur and has prompted the International Criminal Court to indict Omar al-Bashir as a war criminal and for crimes against humanity, crimes for which he has not yet been arrested or have to answer. In reality, however, a more serious divide that has caused much greater destruction and loss of life is between northern and southern Sudan, two areas that have carried on an intermittent civil war for the last 30 years, resulting in the death of over 2 million people. This conflict between northern and southern Sudan is characterized by the geographical split, or the difference in rainfall and vegetation between these two areas, as illustrated here. Northern Sudan is part of the dry desert and Sahel belt that runs across West Africa, east to west, whereas southern Sudan is a better watered, more thickly vegetated area suitable for agriculture. As in the case of Nigeria, northern Sudan is dominated by what Sudanese call Arabs. These are people who are not ethnically Arabs, but they speak an Arabic language and are related to the Arabic invaders of the great Islamic expansion of the 7th and 8th century. As in the case of Nigeria, these Arabic-speaking northern Sudanese are also pastoralists, and as in the case of Nigeria, they tend to dominate the military and political institutions of the country. They are quite in distinction to southern Sudanese, pictured here, who are darker in skin, speak a separate language group, and practice primarily agriculture. The competition between northern and southern Sudanese, which caused a long-standing civil war, was settled, or at least paused, in 2005, when an agreement was reached for the peaceful separation of southern Sudan. This resulted in a January 2011 referendum by the southern Sudanese in which they voted to become an independent state, a separation that culminated in July of that year with the formation of South Sudan, which is now an independent state with its capital in Juba. Unfortunately, there has not yet been a happy ending to this story, because North and South Sudan, although separated politically, remain at odds over fundamental questions, the most important of which is the distribution of oil and the profits to be derived from that oil. As in the case of Nigeria, the oil fields in Sudan are in the south. In the case of Sudan, however, the export of this oil must go overland from South Sudan through Sudan to port cities on the Red Sea. And the major market for this oil has been the Chinese, who have invested heavily in Sudan and have wanted to export its oil. Since the division of the country, however, the two sides cannot agree on a formula for splitting the profits from the production of oil in the south and its transport through the north. Instead of a friendly agreement that would allow both sides to share in the wealth, South Sudan has stopped all oil production, while the military conflict along the border between South Sudan and Sudan resumes. This has caused enormous suffering and destruction on both sides, and the profits earned from earlier oil exports have fueled the importation of arms into the Sudan, as they have into Nigeria, heightening the destruction of this military conflict, which remains today unresolved.